Dino and Matthew Wola. Good entrance, Matthew. We are digital coaches, and we are here to talk to you guys about our Genius Hour for 3rd grade. So I will go briefly through the lesson plan since I know you guys have done this twice already. But in our collaboration as a team, we really wanted to make sure that we were providing everyone with the most efficient, easy access to all of the materials. And so I hope that you feel that way after we're going through our 3rd grade. So as you can see, we've got our essential questions at the top of our lesson plan, the standards that are associated with 3rd grade. For our our Genius Hour, we are talking all about adaptations and animal survival. So I'm sure in your other 2 groups, you have seen the sample rotation schedule. Again, that's an optional rotation for you. We just wanted to make sure that you were provided with the easiest options for rotating through our stations for every grade level. The first day of our rotation, you see here, you've got a station introductory lesson talking about community building. We trust you as educators to know how to communicate with your students, but we wanted to also provide some resources for you, including an outlined Google Doc for group assignments, so you can create groups prior to that first day with your students. For our group in particular, we have a lot of great teacher notes, so please, before you lead these lessons, make sure that you're looking at the teacher notes and the materials, just ensuring that you have the materials inside of each one of your bags, and that you know, obviously, what you're going to be teaching. We have our vocabulary outlined in our lesson plan, and they are, the vocabulary words are on each one of our Seesaw lessons as well. So I am going to go through station 1 for you guys. For those of you, I'm sure you've been talked to about this, but all of these resources are on the back of this main page in our Schoology course. So if you go to your Schoology course, it is actually a group. We found out that's why some teachers were not able to get in. It is a group. You will go down to Genius Time, which is our section, and right there, I'm just going to click on it so you can see, you'll be able to see we are the Makerspace group, and so we've created these Makerspace kits for you. We're in 3rd grade. We've got our environment survival lesson plan there for you, what I just was showing you, and then how to access Seesaw. For those of you that have not had a lot of experience with Seesaw, we want to make sure that you are prepared to be able to teach your students how to utilize it. So, I'll go back to, for mine in particular, I just wanted to kind of go through this real quick for you. For those of you that are not familiar with Seesaw, on the right-hand side, when you assign these activities to your students, this is what they will see with their activity. It is the student instructions. All of it is verbalized. I have voiced over all of the instructions for you, so all students can access it. On the left-hand side here, what I have is very similar to what you'll see in the lesson plan. It has your science standards that we're going to be addressing, the daily CLOs, and then for my station in particular, we have any links, not any links, but a majority of the links that you'll need are underneath each day so that you can access them just in case, for whatever reason, the link in Seesaw isn't working. So I'm going to breeze through this, but for station 1 in particular, we have an introductory video telling them all about Seesaw, explaining, at the end of your daily activities, make sure that you're pressing, you're pressing the draft orange check mark in the top portion instead of the green check mark because that submits it, and just telling them exactly how to access all of the materials through their station. So the first day, we're going to be looking at what animal adaptations are. This is all on Seesaw, so students will not need any of the materials that they'll be receiving when we give you your boxes. But we have our vocabulary to know, and then our CLOs are listed there as well. In addition, on day 1, what they'll be doing, this video right here, and it gives them little clues. Watch this video, learn how to answer these questions. You're not going to have to add a box. You just need to type in or write. But they will be answering questions, seeing what they know. This is kind of like a KWL, like what do you already know about adaptation? Now let's move into what we're going to be learning about. So from Study Jams, we took an animal adaptation video. It has some of the vocabulary words that we're focusing on. And so they'll watch that, they'll listen to it. And following that, they will answer some of the questions that have to do with the video. And I'm sure in your other groups as well, we tried to make it as systemic as possible, but everything, like we said, is voiced over and linked so that students have easier access and can just click along. These are some, this is kind of like an extra bonus. They don't have to get to it, but I didn't say that because the hope is that they do. But this is all about bizarre animal adaptations, and you'll understand why when we do our creature features and our creature creations. But we just kind of want to know, like, what are some interesting or weird for some people animal adaptations that have allowed them to survive. So I've got 2 videos there. I'm sorry. And then just as a reminder, we've got our stop sign here telling them stop there. And I believe I say, click the orange check mark, make sure it's saved. Day 2 is where the hands-on activities come in place. So our second day's activity, CLO, the vocabulary again. And this is where these baggies come in. So for our 3 rotations, there are going to be, Matthews are all reusable materials. And on the bags, it says what station it is, what day it's used for, and whether or not it's reusable or consumable. So for my day 2, it is station 1, day 2, it is all reusable. So these materials are expected to be put back in the box, put back in the bag, into the box, and then they're going to be transported to the different sites. So it tells them what materials they have. This activity in particular is all about bird beaks and how they've had to adapt to be able to eat and continue to survive. And so because I did peanut-free for every school, the gummy bears are instead of peanuts. Please make sure you tell them not to eat them because little children's fingers are going to be all over those. But we've got 3 bowls in every bag. We've got 3 different types of beaks and then 3 different types of seeds for them to attempt to pick up. This is the instructions, like the adult version of the instructions. On the next page, you're going to find the student version. So we've got step 2 is telling them what to do. Place each seed into a bowl. Try with every type of beak, excuse me, to pick up each type of the seed. And then we're going to be talking about the next step for them is going to be following up with their observations. What did they observe? How did they know that was most helpful for the bird to be able to get the food that they needed, etc. So again, we're following the scientific method, trying to get them to think of a hypothesis, what's going to happen, attempt it, practice it, and then state their observations. Right here, it just gives them a little explanation. Again, we tried to make it as smooth and effortless for you guys so you weren't having to stand up in front of them and teach them the entire time. So I have explained what exactly happened, how birds have had to adapt, be able to eat, and utilize their different types of beaks to eat what they need to in order to survive. This video right here is just an additional video of another student scientist doing the exact same experiment. And so I just mentioned that I said bonus, they can watch it and see if that scientist had any observations that were different than their own. And then for day 2, just finishing up, just putting the materials back. Again, this one is reusable, so we want to make sure they're put back correctly so that they can be transported to every site. Within the box that you'll be getting, each group, right? So your classroom will have no more than 15 kids. So we assume there's 5 kids in every group. So each one of our stations, for the materials that we have usually 3 bags. So they have the option of having like a pair of 2 and then a 3, or a 2 and a 2 and a 1. So they have options to split up within those groups, if that makes sense. All right, and then day 3, same idea, vocabulary, what their CLO is. And then this is where they get to start understanding creatures and what happens when you blend different creatures together. So these are our linked books. They're all YouTube video recordings of these books. This is just, this is probably, I think, the only link. I think Brian has some in his, but this is in mine, this is the only link that'll take them outside of Seesaw. We hope to put all of the videos as we could inside of Seesaw so they don't have to click into a different tab. But of course, when they're listening to these, just remind them to go back to your Seesaw tab to finish the rest of your activities. And this is where the exploration comes in. So their second step after reading and listening to those stories is where they get to imagine that they are explorers. They've just discovered a new species. There's no camera available to them, so they have to describe and create this creature for everyone to learn about it. So we're utilizing Switch Zoo Online, and you'll see my creature that I created. It's where they can put different features of a creature together. So I think I did a cat head with a zebra body and like a kangaroo bottom and legs. And so created this creature, and what they can use this for is they can help them with their imagination starting to come up with an idea of what they want to actually design, or they can skip that step, that's totally fine, and go to their creature fact sheet and start to write down what they're all about their creature. So I did say in your lesson plan, in all bold and caps, please print this out before your kids get there. This is the only piece that you should need to do in addition to what we're giving to you. But these are questions like, what does your creature look like? How big or small is it? Where does it live? So getting them to think about what their different features are that they put together, whether or not that creature would even survive where they want it to live, right? So if it's a fish, is it living on land, etc. Then, because we assumed that there wouldn't be a ton of time for after the exploration and the creation of this, we want to make sure that they get to share this. So in just a moment, I'm going to show you how to do that. But we've got all of the materials here. Again, these materials are all consumables. Feel free to take them home. Well, you can do that too, but take them back to your class after your sessions are done. Keep them. It's your choice. We don't need them back. But you will notice that this says whole class, which means that this will stay in station 1's area, however you divide it up in your classroom. So every kid has access to this. These, on the other hand, I have separated into the different rotation groups so that each kid gets one tube and some feathers. But just, telling them, please don't use all the googly eyes. We want all 15 kids to have access to googly eyes, right? So just pretty clear expectations for those. And again, don't care how they get put back. It's your choice. And then talks about how to clean it up. Again, your choice there. And then the last piece is to share it. So again, I don't know that we'll have a lot of time to be able to share, so I wanted to make sure that they were able to express tell you about their animal and how they created it, etc. So I've created a public Flipgrid for you all to access. The Flipgrid, this video right here tells them how to do the Flipgrid. You'll see me in that video doing my own. It's really fun. And then that's my animal right there. That link is actually where they are led to the Flipgrid to answer. And in the instructions here, it just tells them, tell us about our creature, the creature you created, and you can read off the fact sheet or just tell us a little bit about it. It's completely up to them. We want it to be student-led and designed by them. And then the last piece, this is the last section for Station 1. So this will be the day where they click the green check mark and submit it to them. The only thing that I wanted to tell you that we mentioned in the last group is Brian and I both have consumables. Matthew does not. So you will get at your site, you will get one box, like a brown box, what's in an Amazon box, right? Of a set like this. He'll have 2 bags of these guys for you, but it'll be clipped together. So this is one classroom set of consumables for our 2 stations, okay? So you'll see it and it'll make a little bit more sense for you, but just so you understand, and the Matthews will be separate in a different box. All right, Matthew, you want to go?
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hanging in there, doing okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot we're throwing at you all at once, right? Station 2. They're the same thing, but somebody graciously translated for me. I'll move on here. So again, same kind of format. In fact, I used Caitlin's outline as a template for myself. Same materials that you saw at the beginning. We're looking first at the first rotation as camouflage because sometimes it's helpful for animals to blend into their environment so that they're not so easy to find. There are no materials for this first round, for this first rotation, but each of these will start with a video with some reflection questions. This one talks about snowshoe hares and why camouflage is so beneficial to kids. The next piece they're going to be doing on here is a PAGT FET simulation. It involves the rabbit colorings. Rabbits that are white do really well in the wintertime because they blend in with the snow. Brown rabbits do better in the summertime because they blend in a little bit better. The idea here is that the students are going to be running this simulation. The key to this is clicking on the yellow box, which allows a second rabbit to come in. For some reason, one rabbit never generates additional rabbits. You got it? Okay. You got to have at least 2 rabbits to get things started. And then based on the variables that they choose that are all around the rest of the screen, the simulation will rabbits will either take over the entire world because they're out of control, or they will end up in a stable environment where there's enough food and not too many rabbits, or the rabbits will die out because they've eaten too much or there are too many predators for them. The students will have to do this simulation a number of times to be able to find out what variables did they need, what kind of an environment did they need to be able to end up with each of these outcomes. So again, it's an activity which requires some observation, some recording of that observation, and reflection on what they did. For this one, if they need additional time to do something, some kids get a little tired of making bunnies after a while, I guess. There's another option here for drawing the ideal habitat for bunnies. Rabbits. We don't want to get too confused with bunnies. But second rotation has to do with vision. Our eyesight is an adaptation. There are some really creepy looking eyes here. The kids should probably really like that. It's a leading question again after they're thinking ahead of time about what vision is. This video actually talks about the science about how your brain takes the visual input and creates the idea of depth. And we'll show you some activities here that help the students work through that. The first one, all of you can do right now. What I would like you to do is just hold your thumb up to one of those stars, close one eye, like your left eye or your right eye, cover one of the stars, and then open the other eye. And you should see the thumb jump one direction or the other. And what the students will do is they'll just draw a thumb on where they started and what it looked like when they switched their eye, depending on which eye they did. It might be jumping way off the whole page. Another fun one to do is focus on a star and then hold your thumb up and you'll have two thumbs. If you have both your eyes open and you focus here, you'll see two thumbs. Because your eye is creating this idea of depth because two eyes are offset a little bit. And that's something they learn in the video. The next activity is finding colors, and I will need a volunteer for this one. Works like this. There are a couple of different kinds of color sheets that are in the kit and a large number of different colored toothpicks. So again, the kids will be working in pairs, trios, or a single. I'm not sure how a single will do this particular piece, but what one student will do is they will put these toothpicks on this page any way they want to. I kind of like putting it on the same colors. They don't have to be. And then another student will come up and identify which toothpick, which color did you see first. So do I have a volunteer come up here for me, please, and check out which toothpick they see first? I'll take it if you don't volunteer. Somebody. You got volunteered. Come on up. Thank you. Just take a look at this and tell me which toothpick you noticed first.
Oh, I noticed the orange one first.
Orange one. Terrific. So the student then would go back and record which toothpick they found. While that's going on, I'm going to rearrange them, and the student will come up again and see which color did you notice this time. So you'll do that 10 times, then you'll switch roles. And once you've recorded that, students will have to think about, first of all, they'll identify which color did they see most often first, and why did they think that happened? I have no idea what the answer is, so it's an open-ended question. All answers are welcome. Next thing that they're going to be doing is working with this box and 3 foam balls. In the box, in the crate, when you get this, these bottles are in the boxes. That's just an easy way to put them all back in. There are 3 boxes, so you've got 3 sets of 2, but you only have 5 kids. So again, a 2 and a 2, or 2 and a 3. And then these foam balls, there are a lot of foam balls in there. I found that it's really nice if you kind of push down on it a little bit so it has sort of a flat edge. Because what you're going to do, what your brain does is it sees which one is biggest and it interprets that as being closer. So depth also has to do with size. There's a number on each box, 1, 2, and 3. And one student will stage this and decide where they want these. So 1 is closer, and then the other 2 are farther back. And if you can see that in the room, one of those should look slightly larger than the other ones, and you would just choose which one of those you think is closest. And that's how your brain, one way your brain determines depth is by size. And that's something that shows up in the video. Again, they'll record this 10 times, one setting it up, the other's observing, then they switch roles. How many times were you correct? Most of the time, they're probably always going to be correct, but it might be very interesting to follow up with a therapist if a student cannot identify the difference for depth. Have a family member of my own that could not see depth and needed a little help with that. Third rotation is animal coverings. Again, there's a video with a response that has a sentence stem in it. The first thing they're going to do, this is a two-part observation. There are two bottles in here. One's empty, one's got the red mesh bags, which I have a ton of if you'd like any. Kids will put in some warm water. Warm water works best because over time they will get cooled off. The mesh bag is for feathers. They'll be more realistic looking feathers. They will wrap the bag. They'll put the feathers in the bag so it insulates the water. There's a thermometer in here. It turns on by just opening it. The bottle caps have a hole in it, but if the cap is gone, they can put this in, measure the temperature. What they will do at this point is they will take an initial temperature, they'll do some activities, come back and do an exit temperature as well. If it switches from Fahrenheit to Celsius, like if it says 20 something instead of 80 something, the top button up here, just hold that down and it will switch over. They turn themselves off after a short amount of time or just close it, but either way works fine. So they do that, they put that to the side, and then they do some other fun activities. They're going to do 3 activities, time themselves to see how long it takes, and then they will do an adaptation investigation that shows them that they have to do these 3 things again. So first thing is, there are tons of papers in here. Each kid gets one. This is the consumable in my kit. You don't have to put the papers back. They need to cut out, and there are scissors, they need to cut out 1 heart. They need to time that. That's what this little timer is for. They need to time it to see how long it takes them to cut out a heart. Not a very difficult activity. The next activity is cup stacking. Anybody here a good cup stacker? Okay. Well, so it works kind of like this. And 6 up, 6 down. How long did that take? A few seconds. 10 seconds maybe? Doesn't take very long at all. The third activity, there are pretty sharpened pencils in the box as well, is just to write their name on some scratch paper. This is the scratch paper. Didn't take very long at all, right? Well, the adaptation we're looking at is opposable thumbs. Not every animal in the world has one of these opposable thumbs. You have 2 of them, most of us. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put my thumb down, and using a little bit of tape, I don't need to use the whole roll. Some kids might really want to use the whole roll. I'm just going to tape my thumb down and try to do these same activities, right? I'm going to try to, you can imagine what it's like to cut with no thumb, right? It's going to be a little awkward to do this without, you got to like one at a time. It's much more hard, much more difficult to do 6 up and 6 down. So the time difference is going to be quite a bit higher for some of these activities. And then what's it like to experience trying to write without a thumb as well? And all of those you need to record the time it takes. And if they need more time to do these kind of things, have them challenge them to see if they can do it faster and faster and faster. What's their best time? They can extend it that way. Then they come back and they re-measure the temperature for exit temperature to see how much difference, because the bottles should have started out at the same temperature, how much difference is there between the one that's insulated and the one that's not insulated. That gets you to the end of day 3. And they also have to then do a little reflection on their observation and reporting of those pieces. Then when they clean up, they just empty the bottles in the boxes go in the carton, everything else goes in the bags, which go on the top or the sides of the carton. Pretty easy to put back.
And again, his is the only one that's fully reusable. So it'll say that. So it's moving, all of his materials will move from site to site.
I think it's the most fun station, but that's Brian might have some other opinions.
All right, so again, if you forget, like, where is all of this material? The Schoology course is on the back of your schedule here. Schoology course, this is what it looks like. Summer Connections, I saw it's being monitored, so if you have questions about things, you can post them there and people are responding. But our lesson plans in the 3rd grade Genius time, so that's the starting point. For Station 3, when you send your kids to 3rd graders, Station 3, first of all, these are the materials you will be getting. These are the reusable materials, so they'll travel to you. You'll get 2 rulers, you'll get 2 books on duct tape projects, and you'll get a book on paper airplanes, the ultimate paper airplanes, okay? So, oh, and you also get 2 scissors. And so those are your reusables. Your consumables will come you'll get 18 rolls of duct tape. Give another one, I'll give you 1 extra one. We had more duct tape come after we shipped out the packet. So you'll get 18 rolls, and here's what your students will be doing. They'll be thinking like engineers and making small projects. On day 1, they will design and build a duct tape flower. So as they go through here, there's a vocabulary. There's 2 books that come with you, so they can pick a flower project. There's plenty of flowers in these books. We know sharing might be a challenge, so there's additional videos on how to make a flower. And that should take them, that'll be day 1. Of course, some kids, it's be trial and error with 3rd grade. This was one kid's project. Took them a little time for that. Other kids you'll go through some, they'll just have to, they haven't worked with duct tape before. If you haven't worked with duct tape before, you'll see it can be challenging for small fingers. So that's day 1. Day 2, again, there's the materials that come to you, the duct tape, the scissors, and the ruler. Day 2, here's a reflection. Once they construct that flower, they answer a few questions in Seesaw. What would they change? And then they do a short video, and they show us their flower, and they submit that in Seesaw. Day 2 is a more advanced duct tape project, again using the same books or the videos provided. The only thing I would mention here is ask your teacher to approve your project before you begin on this one, because in these books there are some very advanced projects. We want them to pick a project that only uses duct tape materials. But even then, there's like some ambitious shopping bags in that. And if you only have 3 kids in your station, if some kids don't show up, you'll just have to maybe you get 18 rolls. Okay? There's a duct tape wallet. Okay? Right? I have teenagers, so it's empty. But 1 roll will get you 5 of these for an advanced duct tape person. Now again, a 3rd grader might mess up a few times, but each roll you can do 5 of these. But if you're nearing the end and you got a lot of duct tape, you could have them go nuts. There's shopping bags, there's some big ones. But you approve it, okay? If you got all 15 kids want to do shopping bags, you'll probably run out of duct tape. Same thing there. They reflect on it. They show us a picture. What do they like? How would they make it? Did it look like it was supposed to? Engineering questions. Day 3, they're going to move to the air, paper airplane. So they'll read about it here, how an airplane mimics a bird, and Then they will watch a short video on how to build one. If they, this is the finished product of that, and then they're going to fly it, and they're going to measure in foot spans. That short video will show them how to measure in foot spans, so you don't need to roll out a big tape ruler. And then they're going to record how far it went, and then they're going to make some changes to that airplane to make it go farther. And then again, they will reflect on it in Seesaw. So those are those 3 activities we'll be doing in Station 3.
One thing you might want to keep in mind, if the students accidentally submit the activity, don't go through and send it back to them or anything. Just have them start a new response the next day. It's not a big deal if they have 3 different responses for each one for each day. It's just simpler for them if they do a draft and then all of their stuff is in one activity. But if they mess up and they submit it, it's not. Don't spend any of your time trying to track down who didn't submit or anything. That's not important. The kids can just start another response if they didn't do it with the draft.
All right, so we have just some time left. If you want to ask some general questions, you're also just welcome to go to use the restroom or be excused from this session.
There are a couple of additional things on the table over there if you'd like a bottle of water or any. I had some leftover stuff from my kids as well. There's some plastic bottles on the floor and some other stuff on the table. You're welcome to take any of those that you'd like. Questions? You guys feeling okay about next week? It's gonna be here fast.
Like we said, we tried our best to just give you all the materials, get it ready for you, so you really don't have to do too much planning. Just be prepared to look through our lesson plans and just be ready to rock and roll. So you're, like we said, also, you're not really doing the instruction, you are just monitoring and supporting so that you know what they're learning in each one of the stations.
I have a question about like our overall schedule. So for the 3 weeks, this is one week.
No, so it's a good question. Yeah, so it's technically 9 days. It's 2 weeks. So we have, you'll have like holidays in between each of your sessions. So we have it so that each station will take 3 days. So like students in group 1 will be in my station 1 for 3 days, day 1, 2, and 3. They'll rotate. So every student will be able to get to each of the rotations, but they'll only be with you for Genius time or Genius hour for 9 days.
Okay, so this is our first 3 weeks.
It depends on it depends on where you're at. Yes. So what happens is like for us in particular, so all of our materials are sectioned in the for us for 3rd grade in particular, we have reusable versus consumable boxes. So you'll get delivered all of your materials there, and only when you are going to be doing the Genius hour for that section. Does that make sense? So you'll only be doing it. It depends on your school. If you're doing Genius hour as your first, like 3rd grade for the first 2 weeks, yeah.